All right. I don't see anybody responding. At least in the chat box, there's nothing. If anybody would like to sort of unmute yourself, yeah, Hanina has said something. Aristotle gave importance to content rather than form, whereas Plato emphasized on theory of forms. Okay, fine. Disha says, while Plato gave importance to the content, Aristotle gave equal importance to the form. So you both of you see uh, what Hanina says is Plato emphasized on the theory of forms, whereas Aristotle gave importance to content. Disha says while Disha says Plato gave importance to the content. Okay, Hanina says she got confused with her notes. It's good to have confusion. Yeah, good, nice of Disha and Hanina to respond. Anybody, I would expect that's one very significant point there. Very significant point. Anybody else? Yeah, please respond quickly so that we can just go ahead. Anybody? Please respond one or two more at least. I'm waiting. No? Somebody can unmute at least and say man. You also say okay, then I'll begin with the class straight away. Let's not anyways break head on people to talk when they actually don't need it. Okay, Ashwati has responded meanwhile something. Plato said reality resided in forms that were eternal and unchanging. So what's Ashwati? What's the take of Aristotle? Does he say uh, that? Does he say? And does Aristotle say that reality resides in the physical world? Did he say, or does he align with Plato and say, okay, reality still exists in the world of ideas and forms? So I am still my
Sir,
yeah, Kaushik, go ahead.
sir, I don't know what others and you feel, but somewhere I felt Aristotle's thoughts were much more including. I mean, they include everybody, sir, and it had a larger perspective, I think so, compared to Plato, because
Okay,
Plato was more like an elite person.
okay. Okay, so you felt Plato actually sort of catered to the needs of elites, whereas Aristotle was far more inclusive. It looked
Yes,
like it talked
yes, sir.
to, yeah, it talked to sort of all classes of people. Okay, all classes. Good, very nice, Kaushik. Very good. Those are very finer details that you can get into. I'm glad that Hani, Nandisha, Ashwati responded to with some points, and all of them are equally valid kind of points. More or less something that I would be talking about. Anybody else? The ones who never talk, if you could please say something at least, that would be nice. There are a lot of your. We are today we are 68 of us, and out of 68 only about four regularly talk, four or five of you, and so almost 63 are non-existent. Yeah, it's non-existent. I don't know why you don't respond. You all are scared or you don't understand. I don't know anything. Okay, you can be waiting. All right, I'll share a presentation with you and share some thoughts with regard to uh, similarities and differences between Aristotle and Plato. Let me make a disclaimer right at the beginning. It's not a very a conclusive kind of a presentation that I'm done. I'm not extremely happy with this presentation. Nonetheless, we'll have to go ahead. But given a little more time, probably I would have liked to change it a little more because there are some 3 4 points that have been missing. In case we want to really see the differences and similarities between the two of them, I would still want to make a little change. I would still want to make a little change. My goodness, hope I am not. Yes. Can you see the presentation? Can you see the presentation?
No, sir.
No. 1 second. Then I don't know whether I will get logged out. I hope I don't. Just a second. So I have made my disclaimer, and I told you it's not a very conclusive kind of presentation. It's a very shallow kind of a presentation, not very great. But nonetheless, I said it's okay from the point of view of examination. But if you would still want to look for better points, go a little deeper, I had suggested to you all a book. That book I had also put up on the portal. I'm sure not many of you would have gone through that, but a beautiful comparative study between Plato and Aristotle is done there, and exactly that's what I wanted to actually do for you. Uh, but this is something that I had done it last year. Okay, so we will begin looking at
Sir, your voice is breaking, sir.
how is that? How is that? I don't know, Kaushik, why it is happening. There's a lot of disturbance. I can barely hear you. Okay, then I think I will have to just hold on for a second. I think there's some problem with the computer. All right. Can you hear me now? Uh, no.
Yes,
Brinda
sir.
also says no. Can you hear now? Is it
Yes,
slightly
yes,
better,
sir.
Kaushik?
Yes, sir.
So I was telling you all, we will see the difference and similarities between Aristotle and Plato. So this is the first slide that you have. There are basically about 4 to 5 of them that we'll be looking at, not more than that. Just about 4 to 5 of them. Uh, the first part, the first thing that I'm sure should have come to your mind with regard to mimesis. Okay, mimesis. Both of them, Plato and Aristotle, for them, all art is mimetic. Mimetic meaning imitated or something that is imitated. Okay, for both of them, art is imitated. But there is no doubt with regard to their idea. They both claiming art to be something that is imitated or mimetic. Both of them say that. Both agree with that. Now, what's the point of difference with regard to that? With regard to this saying, whether the art, if art is mimetic and both of them agree on that particular aspect, then what's the point of difference? The point of difference is for Plato, if art is imitation, it is simply imitation without any contribution from the artist. Okay, it's simply imitation without any contribution from the artist. Whereas for Aristotle, it's not it's not it's not uh, imitation simply without any contribution from the artist. The artist also uh, contributes. He has a role to play. He has a role to play. Okay, so there is a point on which both agree that art is mimetic, it is imitation, but the second point is the nature of this imitation is different for both of them. Okay, there is no doubt that both agree on a point that art is imitated, but the kind of imitation that is done is different for both of them. Okay, so there comes the role of the artist. There comes the role of an artist. Whether the artist is a creator or whether he is only an agent, or what role exactly does an artist play in the production of an art, all that kind of things, they differ. On that particular point, both of them differ. For Plato, art is mimetic and it's a representation of something else. Okay? Art is mimetic and therefore it is a representation of something else. So therefore, also there also comes the idea of duplication. Okay, duplication. So therefore, the when artist produces something by imitating another thing, what he is trying to do is only duplicating, is not trying to show the original. And that sort of thought takes us forward, and then he says that actually an artist leads humans astray from reality. That's what Plato would say, that an artist leads humans astray from the reality, because he's not showing people the real thing, but he's only duplicating the real thing and showing the duplicate as real. Okay, so that's the point of difference for them. But whereas, anyways, we'll come back to the thoughts of Aristotle a little in the next or the following slide, as to what are his takes on this mimesis, imitation, and also on an artist. I think this point should have been very clear to all of you. For Plato, the foundation is the reason, and that's the point I was constantly sort of emphasizing on, I think, in the second or third class, because for him, if you have to reach that reality which exists in the world of forms and ideas, which Hanina was talking about, that reality can be attained only through reason, thinking. not through emotions. If you are going through emotions, you would be blinded by that emotions, and therefore reaching uh, reaching that ultimate reality that he conceives of is would be next to impossible. So therefore, for Plato, his philosophical foundation is reason. Whereas for Aristotle, his philosophical foundation is not reason, because a point that we studied in the previous class is the ultimate aim of tragedy is to evoke emotions and not satisfy reason, is to evoke emotions and not satisfy reason. Because he says, when all these six elements of tragedy that he talks of, and especially in plot, when he says anagnorisis and peripetia, he says recognition and reversal you have, this in turn will evoke feelings of pity and fear. They have to necessarily invoke or evoke feelings of pity and fear, and that will lead to that bigger feeling. It's called catharsis. And I told you catharsis is purgation of emotions again, purging of emotions, purgation of emotions, purification of emotions, distilling of emotions. So that is, so you see the whole philosophical foundations build around emotional domain and not around rational domain. And this constant fight which started with Plato and Aristotle with regard to which is higher, whether it was heart or the mind, continues to this day as well. The constant conflict between heart and mind, and which is far more superior, continues even to this day. Because still people think, is it enough that you become an intellectual monster? Is it enough? Because you may know a lot of stuff intellectually, rationally, but you see a person suffering, really suffering, and you would begin to rationally analyze the sufferings of that man or a woman, but you wouldn't be there physically doing anything to that person. So, do we want that kind of people again? Or can we have, on the other hand, if you are talking in terms of Aristotle's philosophical foundations, you would be talking of a person completely emotional and not taking any decisions from his brains? Would that kind of a person be suitable in the kind of environment that we live around today? So there's a whole lot of conflict between mind and heart, and which is supposed to be the one that is more powerful, and we are supposed to follow. So, and the roots of that particular fight begin from the thoughts of Plato and Aristotle. So there is a difference there, I told you. The next one is Aristotle. He says tragedy offers quite an insight into human actions. Mimesis is a real thing. Okay, I told you in the previous slide. I told you how Plato is telling mimesis, an artist only copies another thing and duplicates it and then shows it to his audience, claiming it to be right, and eventually leading them astray. But Aristotle says tragedy quite offers an insight into human actions. So what does an artist imitate? He does not imitate something out of the world. He imitates the actions of real human beings. So, if you are talking of Oedipus complex or Oedipus Rex, what happens? It's not it's not a plot which will or which may not happen. Is there a possibility of such a story taking place? And for Aristotle, he would say always there is a chance. Always there is a chance. Macbeth, to take Macbeth, so he would say the plot is very likely to happen because you will have this constant struggle between the kings and the queens and all that sort of stuff. So therefore, there is high chance that the whole plot of Macbeth can be reenacted as and when time is suitable from. Okay. Or if you go to, if you take up Othello, it's so common kind of a plot. It could happen to anybody, anytime, any day. Because you will have people like Othello, and you will also have people like Desdemona. You will also have people like Iago. Are these fictional characters? They aren't. They are very real characters, and their actions are sort of very real, very real. So mimesis is not something that imitates, or mimesis is not something which imitates things from outside or beyond the world, not from the metaphysical world, like Plato says. But mimesis is imitation of actions around you, which are very real in nature, very real in nature. And I gave you two, three examples from different ways. They are quite possible actions that can happen. The point of differences, or the point of difference between Plato and Aristotle. Now, if you remember Plato, when we were talking of his thoughts on poets and writing, thoughts on poets and writing, he says a poet is an airy winged thing. Okay, and he gets it because of it goes into divine madness. That's the term that had was used. Plato, for Plato, poet is an imitator. That's the word that he uses. For Plato, poet is an imitator. The other word that could be used is an agent. Okay? He's an imitator or an agent who takes you away from reality and produces a copy of things. Okay? So therefore, the point that you have to remember there is these two words. One is he is an imitator, other one is the agent. By using the word imitator and agent, Plato is discrediting the artists of all their contributions. He is discrediting the artist of all their contributions, irrespective of the field that you can think of. Any field you name it, and he says this person is not an artist, but he is an imitator, or he is would be an agent, a middleman, a middle person, a middle person. And what does he actually do? He leads you astray from reality, and therefore you can't believe it. Produces copy of things and duplicates things. Now, this is a definition of an imitator, which we find in this book, Plato's book. Definition of imitator. Okay? An imitator is someone who goes a long way off the truth. Okay, who goes far away from the truth. An imitator is the one who goes far away from the truth and can reproduce all things. He goes far away from the truth, but still he keeps the ability to reproduce all things because he lightly touches a small part of them, and that part is an image. Okay. So if you can look at that statement, reflect over it, I'm sure many of you can get a lot of insights because he says an imitator, he goes far away from the truth. He goes far away from the truth. But he has the ability to reproduce all things because what has happened? He has seen the image of the real thing. Okay? He has seen the image of the real thing. It's like, for example, a very small example. Somebody wants to make your portrait. Okay, somebody wants to make your portrait. What does he or she do? That person. Now, I would call that person an imitator. You stand in front of the mirror, and your image is seen in the mirror. Your image is seen in the mirror. The person who is drawing your portrait, making your portrait, uh, can you hear me? Christina says she can't hear me. How about the others? Is that a problem with all of you?
No, sir. It's clear.
No. Okay. Okay.
It's
It's clear,
breaking
I
kind
hope.
of in between, but it's fine, sir.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Uh, So I was giving that example. Imagine you're standing in front of front of a mirror, and somebody is trying to make a portrait of you. Now the person is not looking at you and making the portrait, but rather he is looking at the image in the mirror and then making your portrait. That's exactly how Plato is describing or defining an imitator, where the imitator is not actually even in contact with the real thing. He is not even in contact with the real thing, but he is looking at the image of the real thing and then sort of reproducing that image. So you can see the kind of distortion that can happen in the reproduction of the thing that he is actually looking at, the image. Okay, because looking at the direct thing and looking at the image of the thing and then reproducing, there is a lot of difference. There would be a lot of difference. So imitator is that kind of a person. That's how he defines it. Okay, and all artists, whether it's the poet, it's a painter, whether it's a singer, dancer, carpenter, you name it, and they are all imitators. They are not creators. That's how he defines it. And for Aristotle, that definition would completely be changed. He would not even use the word imitator for an artist. Okay, he would use the word.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, it's breaking,
somebody.
sir. You're not able to understand.
But what to do now? Because I have been making all attempts to. Uh, the network looks good. I'm using. Let me just try the last one. I'll keep the audio mute in laptop and then try to use the phone. Okay, that's the last thing that I can do. I'll just try that. If it works, then fine. Uh, okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
It's
sir. Now it's clear.
it's clear. Okay, so that's fine. I'm just plugged in phone and I'll be using the laptop just to make the presentation. Okay, so hope that problem is clear. Okay, so we were talking of how the definition of imitator for, for Plato, and how he discredits all the artists of their efforts. Okay, now for Plato, the third point, that Plato mimesis is a mirror of something else, potentially deceptive, and it's thrice removed from reality. That's the phrase that I have used, thrice removed from reality. Now, other day, uh, Shivani asked me whether it is thrice removed or twice removed. There are quite a number of books which claim it is thrice removed, and there are others who say it is twice removed. Now, I'll give you an example. Okay. So I think the other things, my message mirror, I told you that's because a mirror is nothing but an image. Again, he's talking of something else. So potentially deceptive, because I told that's a duplication of the real. Now, thrice removed or twice removed, I'll tell you how it can be, or it can change. I told Shivani I prefer twice removed, but if you write thrice removed also, there you can go on arguing that and get it right for this. Now, for Plato, this is how it works. The the original of anything is there in the world of ideas. Okay, world of ideas and forms. And I told you religiously, if you have to think about it, it could be heaven. So if it is there, so first it has to occur in the mind of someone there. Okay, or it has to be there present somewhere there. So that is first removed. Okay, first removed, or the original there, first removed. Now that particular idea, for example, the idea of a tree exists there in the world of ideas and forms,
that is conceived by the second person. Maybe somebody who is going to plant a tree. Second, twice removed. Okay, twice removed. So that's why I said it is twice removed. Now, how it happens? Thrice removed. Now, the plant exists in the world of ideas and forms first removed, is conceived by somebody in the form of a seed, and the seed is planted. The plant grows, still it is twice removed. Now, a painter goes in front of the tree, looks at the tree, and begins to paint that tree. It becomes thrice removed. The tree which you are looking at right now is thrice removed from the reality, because reality is far away, and the third person, when he is actually removing that from reality, is taking a little more far or away from the truth. So therefore, I said it can be twice removed or it can be thrice removed. As some books would say it is twice removed, and some books would claim it is thrice removed. So I would prefer you saying it twice removed, because the third, because from there you can have multiple things done. Okay, multiple things happening, because the tree is there, a painter can paint about it, and somebody who has painted can take a picture of it, and you can have multiple things done after that. But until then, it is twice removed. So I would prefer you all calling it twice removed from reality. But if you write thrice removed, there is no harm. It's not wrong as well. So for Plato, mimesis is a mirror of something else, potentially deceptive. It will definitely mislead you, and it is twice removed from a reality, twice removed from everything. And for that matter, everything, you, me, the things that you see around you, everything is twice removed. Everything is twice removed, and therefore it is misleading. Okay, and we have discussed that at length. Now, for Aristotle, very interesting thoughts that he speaks of, and I think some of us would agree with Aristotle. Just like, unlike Plato, who says mimesis is deceptive, it's something that we copy of other things and all that sort of stuff that it talks, which is misleading and all that. He says, Aristotle says, mimesis or imitation, in other words, mimesis or imitation, in other words, is one instinct of human beings, or one instinct that is planted in every human being right from childhood, actually. Okay, right from childhood. Just go back to your childhood and think of certain things that happened. Okay, things that happened. What you have learned today is nothing but a result of your imitating the actions that you would see around you. And basically, when you are very small, when you are a child, you would imitate the actions of your parents. And as you begin to come in contact with your school or classmates, you begin to imitate their actions. As you grow older, you begin to imitate the actions of the models that you take for yourself. So all through, we keep imitating the other. We keep imitating. That's one basic instinct that is actually planted in all of us. And so therefore what happens, it is very natural. There's nothing unnatural about it. There is nothing, it's not our parents who tell us that, okay, you got to look at us and learn from us. Nobody tells that. It happens naturally to us. There's something very natural for all humans to look at other humans and then begin to imitate. Now it's a craft also. That's what he says. Okay, please pay attention to the kind of words that Plato uses to describe art and Aristotle uses. See, that's the first word. It's a craft. Not everybody can imitate the other like you do. Okay, it's different people imitate differently. The same things are also imitated differently. So it's a craft. It's a craft to imitate, and it has its own internal laws and aims. You have a purpose in imitating something or somebody. Okay, and that imitation has its own internal laws and regulations, rules and regulations. Now let me give you another example from the point of view of how Plato and Aristotle looks at it differently. For Plato, when an imitator is imitating a reality or the image of reality, he does not have to follow any rules and regulations. He can do anything and everything, and it still turns out to be, because he's anyways deceiving people. He's taking you, leading you away from the truth. But for Aristotle, every imitative act, okay, every imitative act is based on those unwritten, unsaid internal laws and rules and regulations. When there is when there is internal laws and rules and regulations, only then you will have something kind of a whole creature or a whole organism that you would be talking of. Okay, so so it has every imitation has its own internal rules and regulations. Okay, it's the you all have a next class. I'll stop here. We'll continue in the next class. Thank you so much, all of you. We'll see you all in the next class.